to Eric's podcast. Dive into conversations about life, family, and business with your host, Eric. Whether you're looking for practical advice, personal stories, or just a little inspiration, Eric's got you covered. Tune in every week to join the journey and get ready to elevate your game. Now, here's your host, Eric.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Eric's podcast. I am your host, Eric. Today is Christmas Eve. So for all you guys out there, Merry Christmas and Happy Christmas Eve and Happy New Year. An interesting thing that happened to us, we're out of town for the holidays visiting my parents, and it's interesting when you have a situation when you're around you're around either your friends or extended family. There's always that dynamic of how your kids are going to behave, or how are they behaving, and it's easy to, at least for me, it's easy to kind of slack off sometimes, especially like doing the parenting thing. And, which happened during Thanksgiving, because I was also trying to work at the same time. And then there's a bunch of other stuff going on. And when we got back from Thanksgiving, there's all these traits that my son had that just weird things that were just off. And, being more like rebellious or really challenging you, and or trying to control the situation, stuff like that. And it occurred to me that I hadn't really established a reinforcement, or I wouldn't say a discipline. I didn't establish some like that. So for us, what we do is we have a timeout time. That's how we've been disciplining Josiah. And so and it's various times. If it's just something small, then it's like a 2-minute go sit in the stroller, cool off. If it's something larger, then it could be like 4 or 5 minutes. But and that has been worked out really, really well, actually. And it occurred to me that we hadn't established that during Thanksgiving, and so he was just left to be able to do whatever he wanted to do, and just kind of go unchecked. And so this time, what we've done instead is we've been using the car as kind of a take a breath, take a break from the situation. If something's not going your way, something like that. And just, going to the car, sitting in it, and then same thing that you would do at home. And that actually has been working really, really well. And I never thought about it for traveling purposes and everything, but that has been working really, really well for us. And it has been keeping the kind of wanting to challenge you, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But some cases you have to, for instance, you don't stick your fingers in a plug, because you could get electrocuted. Things like that are things that we try to, when we say no, do not do that, it needs to be heard and taken into account. And I feel like a lot of times, and then you have, you don't want to be over the top about controlling every little thing, but you also don't want to give your kid complete freedom to do whatever, because that's not parenting at all. And I think there was a good book that I read earlier this year. I didn't read it, I listened to it. And one of the things about the book is it was really focused on boundaries and communicating those boundaries, and how the kid themselves, they actually want boundaries. They want to know what is the, not cage, I wouldn't say that. I would say, like, what are the walls? And if you know what the walls are, then your anxiety and everything is a lot lower. You actually feel like you can create within, you have a safe space you can create within. And you're not constantly wondering, where is the boundaries at? Because then that creates like a, not knowing, like, oh, what did I do wrong? If there's a space that you can create with your kid that is like, you can do whatever you want, be as creative as you want, and just stay within this area. Or even like in an emotional standpoint too, it's the same thing, because it could be like, okay, it's okay to be upset and mad, but we're not going to stay being upset and mad. We're going to let it go. One interesting thing though that has started happening after, or has just started to occur, is that he's telling himself, I can't do it, or I never will be able to do this, or I'll never see that again. And he's telling himself this, which is it's interesting, because it occurred to me that could be a possible foundation of how you think about yourself in the future, and how, like, do we do that subconsciously without even knowing that we're doing that? And is that holding us back from actually going and trying new things? And it hit me, because it was like, okay, what things am I saying to myself that I am just not doing because I am believing that I can't do it? Or I'm believing that I won't like it. Similar to, you go to a restaurant and you look at a menu, you're trying to evaluate whether you're going to like it or not. But I think the thing that we don't really take into account is, have we actually ever tried it before? And how can we know if we're going to like it or not like it if we've never tried it before? And how can we make a decision on something if we've never actually tried it? Because we might actually like it. And so that's one of the, so that was something that hit me. It was like, okay, wait, what am I doing? Is there a narrative in my own head that I'm telling myself, I won't like that, I can't do that, or am I judging myself before even doing it, like using words like, I'll never be able to do this, or I always do this? And am I judging myself on and kind of self-sabotaging myself without even actually trying to do the thing that I'm trying to do? Like, if I'm trying to break a habit and I tell myself, I'll never be able to break this habit, I'll never be able to stop doing this, well, then that kind of talk is kind of like, you're just, why would you ever actually do it when you know you want to do it, but you're saying that you're not going to do it? Like, the whole narrative, it should be, I can do it. Just like the train story, the little train that could. And that should be the dialogue. And that is a habit that I want to create. And it is, instead of saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, maybe turn it around and say, I can, but I don't want to right now. Because I feel like we're using I can't and I'll never as an excuse to not even try. And that's not the way to use those terms. So anyway, but yeah, so that was something that I realized, and it was a little bit of a, so now, I mean, trying something new, I've been trying it out, and, I've been, there's a group of guys that hang out at the Whole Foods, at the, not Whole Foods, but at the bar, close to us, and I tried out just going up there, hanging out, talking, shooting the breeze. Whereas a year ago, I would have not done that. And I would have just, been that person silently on their phone, trying to find something to watch or look at or something. And yeah, now it's a little bit different. Like, go ahead and try it. And it works for business in business sense also, because, in negotiation, if you don't ask, you're not going to know if you are able to do that or you're not able to do that. If you always just assume everything, then you're really holding yourself back from the options that you might have on the table. But you need to ask in order to see what those options are. So example right now is our rent is due. Well, it's due for renewal. We have a renewal proposal from them. And usually every year so far, I have emailed them back with a counter offer saying, I don't want to pay this much. I understand you need an increase. The average market has only increased 3% or whatever. I would be willing to pay this amount. And I've gotten a discount every time. This time, however, I did the same similar email, but instead I asked to keep our rate the same. And so I'm curious to see what their response is. It's a 50-50 chance. They'll say yes, or they'll say no. And that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with asking, but you won't know unless you ask. And so, the holidays are here. Everyone is having a good time. But if you don't ask and kind of always assume, then, you could have the same kind of blandness that there's always been. But if you throw some new thing in there, then you possibly will have a different experience. Good or bad, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, that was just something that I saw in my kid, and then it kind of triggered the same thing in me in terms of like, okay, negative validation, and whether or not am I assuming too much, and should I stop assuming so much and actually try to see if it's a valid response or not. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys have a merry, happy holiday season. And on this nice Christmas Eve. And I will catch you guys in the next episode. Woohoo! Okay, anyways, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Ciao.
Welcome to Eric's podcast. Dive into conversations about life, family, and business with your host, Eric. Whether you're looking for practical advice, personal stories, or just a little inspiration, Eric Eric's got you covered. Tune in every week to join the journey and get ready to elevate your